Okay, good evening, council and those watching and those in the gallery. Staff, I'm going to call this meeting to order, our regular council meeting, May 4th. I'll ask Chandra, our clerk, to do roll call.
Okay, Mayor Klopp,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Becker,
Present.
Councillor Groot,
Present.
Councillor Harris.
Here.
Okay, I have regrets from Councillor Hessel, Councillor Lamport,
Present.
Councillor Sangster,
Present.
Councillor Walden,
Present.
and Councillor Whetstone.
Present. Okay, thank you. We have quorum. Again, for those that are on Zoom, Councillor Sangster, I don't always get to see your hand, so feel free to open your mic and to say you have a question or a comment, okay? Does not insult me a bit. All right, disclosure of pecuniary interests at this meeting. Any at this time? Seeing none. Approval of agenda as printed. Is there anything somebody wants added? Deputy Mayor moves as printed. Seconder, Councillor Walden. All those in favor? None opposed. Motion carries. Consent agenda 4.1 through to 412. Anything on here wish to comment on or motion? Councillor Whetstone.
4.3, I'd like to make a motion related to that.
On 4.3, a motion. Okay. Is there any other motions that or issues just wanting been brought up to be noted? Seeing none, then we'll deal with the motion first. Councillor Whetstone.
Sure, not a big deal by any means, but there has been some confusion in the past about back-to-back meetings, like we did today, how the payment should be treated, how we're supposed to be doing things that way. So what I'm looking for is to actually, let's pull that bylaw and let's just make sure we're all on the same page, make sure it's written properly because things have changed, to make sure it's up to date. So my motion is going to be that council direct staff to bring back a report regarding council numeration bylaw 1-2026 that includes potential amendments to the provisions governing the meeting pay section and particular consideration given treatment to back-to-back meetings.
Seconded by Councillor Harris. Any discussion and be clear on that? Got no problems or issues? I can see, I know STR has been something that has been brought up and we didn't have that before. So that's probably not in our bylaw. If someone goes to the further to check the Bible, I get it. Okay. All those in favor of this motion? Any opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion to receive the rest of the consent agenda 4.1 minus 4.3 down to 412 for information. Councillor Walden, Councillor Groot seconds. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. We now have our correspondence for action, AMO or conference requests for delegations. Go ahead.
Sure. So through you, your worship, staff are happy to hear if there was any suggestions that you had for AMO delegations. Internally, we have there was the delegation the last meeting for the Ministry of Health regarding operating funding to open 2 beds at Huron Hospice, which council discussed as staff submitting as a joint request. So we will look into that. The Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery and Procurement and the Ministry of Municipal Affairs regarding the impact of Buy Ontario Procurement Directive, which came forward as an information report from Maggie McBride, Manager of Finance last meeting. And also the Ministry of Transportation regarding extending the implementation period to allow for additional commenting on the mandatory harmonized road construction standards. So those are the 3 ones that we've come up with internally. If council has any other suggestions.
Councillor.
There's 2, MTO. So I heard that we had MTO there, so maybe it's a second one there. There's been a safety committee that's been struck by the residents in Bayfield regarding the speed limits on Highway 21 going through the village of Bayfield. And I think it would be good for us to go back at them once again, knowing that they are doing something on that one corner that's a challenge. But in the meantime, we need to get the speeds reduced going through the village. It's plain and simple. That would be a huge step if we can do that. So I suggest we go back at it again, ask them now that they have a path forward and we know timing isn't going to be this summer, but let's do something that we can make this happen now. And maybe that is putting a sign up there, whatever it is, reducing it permanently. I don't know what it is, but let's look at reducing the speed on Highway 2021 through the village of Bayfield.
Okay, anything else?
One more, I know we're gonna have a report, a positive report later on regarding the launch in Bayfield. I do believe we should, and I'm not sure if the DFO, being it's kind of federal, is represented there or not. But if we could look into if we can get a delegation there with the DFO regarding what the future looks like for the launch in Bayfield, so we know where we're headed and making sure there's funding available for those repairs.
Okay, with regards, and as you said, DFO, I haven't really remembered DFO being there. Could we leave that in the hands on that one with our staff? And they could get back to us. if it's
Whoever it needs to
possible.
be with, that's fine.
Yeah, but we may, just for the public, we may not, it may not be there, but I want to assure everyone, we're working on that.
Yeah, and I know that we report coming and everything too, but let's just make sure we're keeping it going. That's all, so we know
Okay.
exactly where we're headed.
And if, while we're there too, maybe we can get an update on the old launch area that the province and MTO own. I know that they've said they want to work with us, but if we get an update, yeah, so just keep moving the
Again, I
ball.
think they'd be shocked if we didn't actually ask them again.
And maybe this time they may have some more answers for us. Councillor Lamport.
I'm trying to go back because the conversation I had with them at the last one, I thought they were kind of saying to us that they're good with, so they're expecting us to come back to them with some sort of plan or something.
Well, we'll look at
thought
the
that-
minutes. This will initiate our staff
I
looking.
think you might want to
where we're
look
at.
into it before we just make a delegation for the same thing. I think they indicated
That's true,
it
they
was
did.
this is a okay thing to, so in other words, we municipality approached them to say, this is what we'd like to do with the South Shore.
Okay, well, your report was given to Maggie, I believe. Counselor, I believe your report was given to Maggie, so we'll follow up and see what we have and see what we could add to it.
Yeah, like
Or-
I briefed council afterwards when I made delegation, and I'm pretty sure that's what I'd said, but you can
I think you
check-
did.
check into
Okay.
it, yeah.
All right. Anything else on delegations? All right, then I think we've got a handful there. I need a motion to add those and if you agree with the list they had. Okay, Councillor Whitstone, seconded by Deputy Mayor. That what the staff recommended and our staff, what we've talked about, will be looked into to see what we can add to the discussion. Maybe some even going more forward with. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Planning 6.1, consent application, file C7 2025 99 Tile Street, Bayfield. Sarah, you're on.
Through your worship, here, I'll just share my screen. Oh, I did the wrong one. Apologies. Just bear with me for a second. All right, thank you. We'll just make sure that comes up there. All right. So thank you, through your worship. This is for consent application C73 2025, lands at 156 lot 27 to 29, also known as 99 Tile Street in Bayfield. And the application is submitted by Grace O'Brien, care of Tony Triagani. The applicant proposes the creation of a new lot under the infill policies in the Blue Water Official Plan. The applicant notes no intention to develop the lot, no desire for services, and that it is simply for the intention for family planning and preservation of Lake Blue views for the nearby property across the street. The lands proposed to be severed are approximately 1,230.5 square meters in area with an 18-meter frontage, and the lands to be retained are approximately 1,735 square meters with a 24.63 meter frontage. The lands are designated natural environment and residential, and the property is zoned NE2 and NE3, natural environment zone 2 and 3, and R1 residential low density. Here's a 2020 aerial view of the subject lands. We are dealing with the parcel on the west side there that abuts the lake. The north parcel is proposed lands to be retained, and identified in red is lands proposed to be severed. And then just showing an image there on the blue property is the lands that this consent is kind of proposed for to retain the views of that parcel across to the lake. This is the application or sketch, submitted by the applicant showing the severed land on the south. It currently is a vacant parcel, and the lands to be retained have a one-story dwelling and then an accessory structure on the property. Some site images just showing here on the upper left. I've just denoted there approximately where the severed parcel is in the red line, and then the retained lands in yellow. And then the image on the top right shows the parcel to be severed, and the image on the bottom right showing the lands to be retained. Comments were received on this application from Public Works noting a new sewer or water service would be required for the severed application, and related servicing allocation policies must be met, as well as a new entrance permit would be required. Building noted no concerns for the lot, provided it is serviced with water and sanitary servicing. 911 numbering would be required for the severed, and under utilities, a new sewer and water service would be required for the Savo lot. No comments were received from the public. We did receive comments from Conservation Authority, AuSable Bayfield. They did note the subject lands in their entirety are regulated by their authority, and permits would be necessary for any proposed works. The majority of the parcel is within Lakeshore Area 1 under the Shoreline Management Plan. The Shoreline Management Plan and the PPS prohibit development defined as lot creation, what this application is proposing, in hazard areas, including along the Great Lakes. They understand there's no intention to develop at this time, but any future development may not be permissible under ABCA policies. The entire lot is hazardous, and there might be limited area and a viable buildable option on the site. They do note no geotechnical study was completed that would aid in overall site evaluation. And overall, ABCA notes they do not support lot creation in hazarded areas and recommend denial of the application. Under policy review, and I will note, I'm going to go through very broad level here. I do note that there was a further analysis in the planning report, so that should be taken into consideration for council. The subject lands, as noted, are both natural environment and residential, so that does need to be taken into consideration. The PPS, Huron County OP, and Blue Water Official Plan, as well as the secondary plan, do permit lot creation and infill development in fully serviced settlement areas to promote a mix and range of housing in existing built-up areas, do allow infill development, and it must be connected to services. So the plan does meet overall lot area and conform with the zoning provisions. It is natural environment areas, and the resources are to be protected along Lake Huron. It is identified and listed in the features of the natural environment area in our official plan. Development shall be directed outside of hazardous areas and outside of the shoreline of the Great Lakes area. And again, the ABCA SMP plan noted as a resource for consideration in development in natural environment and hazard areas. And then again, noting the severed and retained parcels do conform to the Blue Water zoning bylaw. It is understand the promotion for infill and development that does need to be taken into consideration here. That is a policy directive in our official plan, but the lands are also natural environment, and that does need to be considered in whole and suitability for the property overall. It is noted the applicant has no intention to development, but they must confirm viable lot regardless, and the lake bank severance ultimately is proposed in this case. ABCA does have concern with the development, including lack of buildable area, prohibition of lots in Lakeshore Area 1, and that permits may ultimately not be issued for this site unless it is demonstrated the site is viable to do so. Given the review, there is no alternative configuration to avoid the hazard land. Sometimes we do try to do that. If we are within regulated areas, can we maybe modify to make an L shape or something that would not fragment the hazard? But that's not possible on this site. Although zone minimums are met, there is limited area east of the top of bank, and there may be some impact if a development were to happen on this site. I'm not saying it's not possible, but there needs to be demonstration from the applicant. And then providing a service for the lot when we do not have an infinite source of them is something that council should consider, as we would be taking an allocation for creation of this lot if they do not intend to develop. Staff have identified alternative options that could be considered, such as an easement to limit development and preserve the views that would not fragment the hazard area. This should also address ABCA concerns and would also be not required for servicing, as we would not be creating a lot. In this case, the applicant has decided to proceed with the lot creation, so that is before council today. So ultimately, the site may not be appropriate for lot creation. It may not be justified reason to protect lake views for the reason of the application. There is some question of limited developable area. Absence of demonstrated developable area, such as no geotechnical, was submitted to support the application, potentially resulting in fragmentation of the hazards and the impact along the lakeshore. That limited supply of sewage needs to be considered, and also concerns raised by ABCA and that permits may not be possible in the future. For these reasons, it is recommended that the application be denied, or ultimately council could recommend deferral of the application to allow the applicant to look into other methods to achieve the intended purpose of the application. So I'm going to summarize five options that are for consideration for council today. And I do also want to mention some comments that were requested by the applicant. And I do understand there was a council question earlier today. So based on the comments received from ABC and the analysis in the report, it is recommended the application be denied, or recommended, for denial to Huron County. Alternately, council could choose to defer that application to allow the application or the applicant time to review the proposed and potentially explore other options. If this is deemed favorable, such as ABCA being on board with it, it could allow the application to be modified into an undisputed severance application, which would not require the consideration by Huron County Council. Council could also decide to recommend approval as requested by the applicant. If this option is chosen, a standard list of conditions was included for consideration by council tonight. It is understood that the applicant has expressed an interest in applying a holding zone on the south half of the lands to restrict future development, and has indicated that municipal services are not desired at this time. Although that's not recommended through planning, council should they wish to support that approval with a holding, a condition would be required or recommended that a zoning bylaw amendment be added to apply a holding zone to the subject lands, and it should be included in the recommendation to Huron County. The zoning bylaw would be conditional approval with all associated costs borne by the applicant. Any future removal of the holding would require a further zoning bylaw amendment, also at the applicant's expense. The holding provisions could not be lifted until municipal services, including water and sewer, are provided at the applicant's cost, an appropriate allocation is demonstrated, and the applicant or owner has proven that the lot is suitable for development, including ABCA approval, confirmation of a buildable area, geotechnical studies, for example. If this approach is taken, the condition requiring servicing of the subject lands could be removed and replaced with the requirement that the zoning application be submitted to reply the holding zone, as we would not need servicing if the holding was in place. It is understood that a council member did ask whether the lands could be rezoned to NE2 or Natural Environment Zone 2 in their entirety. It could also be an option considered by council. It would in fact perhaps be a downzoning of the property and would remove any future residential development opportunities, even if the applicant later demonstrates the land are suitable for development or obtains necessary approvals. Although again, not recommended, if council were to support this approach, a condition requiring a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the lands to NE2 could be included, with all associated costs for that application borne by the applicant. Any future request by the applicant or a subsequent owner to return the lands to R1 would require a new zoning application. Although approval is not the planning recommendation, removing the R1 zoning would significantly limit future development potential unless the rezoning is pursued. Whereas retaining the R1 zoning with perhaps a holding provision would preserve the possibility of future development should the applicant or a future owner demonstrate that the lands are developable and obtain all required approvals, including those from ABCA. So again, in summary, the planning recommendation is for denial or perhaps deferral, but alternate options including approval, approval with a holding, and approval with changes to NE2 zone are options for council. And I'd be happy to answer any questions tonight.
Okay, this time, is there any questions to our planner? Councillor Whetstone?
And I may have a few, Sarah, so I'll try to, if I can speak clear, hopefully I can understand what you're saying then too. So, because I've got a few. So I just want to make sure. So I'm just confirming that the applicant does not want to build on this property, correct? At this point in time.
Through your worship, that's my understanding.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. ABCA says it's not a buildable lot due to some issues that you mentioned there, correct? Okay, I'm just going through my list here. Let's see what else that you had on here. So you did mention a couple. Now I want to make sure I heard that clear, that the applicant does want to move forward with having it as a separate lot.
Through your worship, yes, I understand they wish to proceed to sever the lot.
Okay. And that's where we're running into some of the issues, obviously, on that as well, too. Now, one of the things that we had in the past is that we couldn't provide sewage capacity because we didn't have anything. We didn't have an allocation policy. We didn't have anything on that line. So now we actually have that. So that's one tick in the box that's sort of been completed, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Through your worship, yes. If council approves it as requested just by the applicant to create a lot, we would include that standard condition that the deeds not be stamped until the allocation policy is in place. They get the allocation, the
For
plant's
sure.
up in order.
Sure. Okay, and so there was a couple options on there, and I was trying to write down and I couldn't keep up at one.
I apologize.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So I was a little bit confused. I think it was one comment that said that keeping the R1 zoning would be a good idea because of potential use for residential use. Did I hear you say that correctly?
Yeah, through your worship, ultimately the property is designated residential and the front portion is zoned R1. It does have NE2 and NE3 on it. I'm not saying it's never possible to build here. They would have to demonstrate maybe through a hydrogeological report, get permits from ABCA. They may get those.
Yeah.
There's never a guarantee.
Right.
So if we were to change, if council were to change the zoning entirely to NE2, they'd then have to go through zoning at a later time to go to an R1 zone to perhaps build on the property. It may be a down zoning where right now they have an R1 zone, perhaps. And again, it's not a recommendation from planning based on ABCA comments, my recommendation in the report. But if council is considering it, perhaps that holding zone on the R1 is an option that would retain the views. And maybe 5 years down the road, if the current owner wishes to develop, or if they sell the property and wish to develop, that new person could go through a process to take off that holding zone. It would have a number of conditions on it, but they could at one point perhaps maybe build on the property.
Okay, and sorry, I'm taking up all the airtime here. So that was and R1 zoning with a hold on there. So what does that do from an allocation standpoint, the allocation policy?
Yes, yeah. So through your worship, we would not put an allocation to it right now. If they didn't want to develop for 20 years, it just sits as that parcel with a holding on it, and it really only allows existing vacant use on the property.
So then that allocation would actually go to somebody else that.
Correct. Yeah, through your worship, it would not be designated to this property. So with that, I did chat with the Public Works Manager, and if council were to go the holding zone approach, you'll see in the recommended conditions, the one to put services in the ground is not one of the recommended conditions because it's not required at this time. If to remove the holding, one of the things they would have to do in order to remove the holding would be to put services in the ground and make sure allocation was available.
And one final comment.
Yeah.
Has the applicant been discussed with regarding the R1 zoning with a hold?
Through your worship, and Grace is on the call, but I understand they would like to have a holding zone applied on the property.
Okay. Do I need to pause for a second?
Yeah, they have to declare.
It's all good. I just.
Yeah,
figured something
just
was
so we
up.
have a technical issue here. Sorry,
Sorry, I have to step out.
he has to, no, you have to declare.
Want to make a statement? Yeah, 4.
I'm I am related to this Grace O'Brien that's on there. That's my school bus.
Okay.
So.
Okay,
Okay, that's all I have anyways, and I'm gonna make a recommendation. I'm gonna let other people talk first.
okay. Any other, yeah, okay, very good. Any other questions at this time to our planner? If not, it is a public meeting, per se, and we have the applicant here, a representative, Miss O'Brien. Are you on the Zoom? I understand?
I am. Good evening, your worship and counselors. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Wonderful. So yeah,
Okay. You have some comments and you've heard some discussion. Do you have anything that can help your client move us forward?
I'm happy to answer any further questions that there are, but I think the discussion and Miss Smith's presentation has been very helpful. We would be first asking council to recommend that it be approved rather than having a holding place on the zoning, but that is a alternative that we would support. Our only concern with that is that the zoning process is quite expensive, particularly if Mr. Triani doesn't want to develop right away. So we would be asking council to bring forward the zoning bylaw amendment to place the hold on, and then the expenses could be on the applicant to have it removed, but we would want to be sharing that cost. And then just in relation to the Conservation Authority's comments, I think Ms. Smith really nailed it when she said it doesn't mean that development's never permitted on the site. It just means that more analysis has to be done should they ever wish to develop. So if you were to recommend approval of the application, it doesn't mean that the applicant can go and build something without the Conservation Authority or your consent. It just means that the lots are severed. It's helpful to the applicant for estate planning purposes. And then should they ever wish to develop, they'd have to get a Conservation Authority permit under the Act. They would have to get all the other required reports, assessments, and everything done to ensure that development is feasible. And I think like even if you look in that area, like 103 Tile Street has a dwelling that was just built in 2013, which just shows that development is possible in that area. You just have to go through the required process, which the applicant doesn't intend on doing right now, or as far as we're aware ever. He just wants that possibility to be able to do it in the future.
Okay, councilors, Councilor Whetstone.
Yeah, so now I have a few more questions based on that, but thanks for bringing that up. I wasn't quite understanding, and maybe between the two of you can help me out here. I heard sort of the cost aspect being an issue, and maybe the cost could be, I thought I heard shared, or the cost would be implemented when the H is removed. I heard something along that line. I'm trying to understand that aspect of it.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm not sure if Ms. Smith has more to say, but I know that in the past, the municipality has brought forward zoning bylaw amendment applications to place holding symbols on certain lands. And if they were to do that, then the applicant wouldn't have to submit the substantial application fees and do the reports for that H. But in order for him to have the H removed, should he ever wish to develop, he would then have to submit a rezoning application and have all of the studies done to show that it's appropriate to remove the H symbol.
So it's getting two costs, one to put the H on and one to remove it. Is that what I'm getting at? Is that what I'm
Yeah,
hearing? Sarah?
Yeah, through your worship, if council were to go that way, a condition would be that a holding zone be placed on the property that does require a zoning bylaw amendment application. That is usually applicant borne. If council wishes to cover the cost for the applicant, that is at their discretion. I will say the county portion would still be collected in this case because it is a request of the applicant to have this severed. It's not an initiative by the municipality to sever this property. In order to then ultimately remove that holding zone, another zoning bylaw amendment application would have to be submitted. There would be a cost for that borne to the applicant. If the municipality at that time wishes to pay the cost for them, again, the county portion would still come into play.
If I may, this H holding came up after we had some issues around, the H has been there a long time, the holding. But in particularly with properties in Bayfield, had to do a lot with our capacity for sewage. Now, I need some clarification, and it's not the first time I've been wrong, but when we were talking with an applicant a while back about this H, and we talked about the process, we're gonna put holdings, H's on all those properties that are specifically in Bayfield right now, because there was a bunch. I know the question was asked, but I'm gonna ask it again. When we said, okay, but they want to then go back, we get sewage capacity. Is there a cost for them to get that H off? And what was the answer?
So, back to you, Chair. When the holding symbol was introduced for the sewage capacity issues in Bayfield, staff brought that forward, and it was staff's recommendation at the time that because it's specifically to the capacity issues, it was a council directed one, and council was bearing those costs to put on the holding and remove the holding once there is capacity. In this situation, the holding symbol is being in place to not give capacity, right? So this is an applicant borne one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's, well, no, I wanted to clarify. Of course, when I heard no cost, that's what I heard is no cost. So, and the cost of the H for us should not be very much because it's an H, we take it off. It was more put there because that way staff couldn't accidentally forget if a person came in for a building permit. Fair enough. Okay, so is there, go ahead.
So another option, and I'm just exploring as well too. If we just agreed, I'm just trying to figure it all out in my head because there's a lot of information there. So we know we don't know what ASALPO is going to do, but we have a pretty good understanding that they're going to say no to anything at this point in time going forward. That's kind of what I'm seeing there at this given time.
Through your worship, I did bring the thought of an easement up with them. They said they would be more favorable to that. They'd have to review it if it were to go back for circulation for that option. But if they are amendable to that, they
Okay.
may be supportable of an easement because it's not fragmenting the hazard area.
Okay.
I may just on that point though, if, say we went with the H, holding all things what we heard about cost, and I think we're thinking about that. But if that would be there, ABCA would have no issue because there's nothing happening there. 10 years from now, somebody may come up but then they would have an issue. So they would be, and staff, because you also made a comment, staff don't like the holding. Well, it's a policy within planning. We'll maybe deal with that in a second or two. However, I just want to be clear, if anything like an H, ABCA should say, oh, if there's nothing happening here, they go home. So they shouldn't be complaining or making this go to county and say, we have an argument. I would strongly doubt that would happen, just from my perspective.
So
But let's get on with this about how we can make this work.
I will say through your worship, the request is for a lot creation. So it's creating a lot. ABCA has objection in drawing a line down that parcel and creating 2 lots. If the lot is created with a holding on it, ABCA still objects to that overall lot creation. Understanding it may not see development down the road, but you are creating the lot and ABCA sees that as development and notes an issue with that.
We can maybe have I understand that we have people that represent us on that board, and maybe the board at ABC can have a discussion how far they want to take that. But at this point, we're not there yet.
So if I could, a couple more here. So an easement might be okay. We heard that they would take it under advisement anyways and relook at it. So what if we were to, like one of the options you said is if we actually just approve what we have today, what would be that path forward, and what would be the next steps? What recommendations would have to be put in there, for the applicant, all that? If you could repeat that, it'd be great.
So through your worship, if Blue Water was to recommend approval, it would go on to Huron County Council for consideration. There were a list of standard conditions included in their planning report. That would include one for the servicing allocation to be put into, services to be put into the ground, and that the deeds not be stamped until that allocation is in place. It would still go to County Council because it's disputed because ABCA has an objection to the application. If the holding zone is applied to the property through lot creation, so Blue Water recommending approval of lot creation and then placing a holding zone, it still is lot creation. ABCA still has objection. It would still go forward to County Council. If Blue Water does the recommendation of approval in the requirement to do a change to the entirety of the parcel to an NE2 zone, that would still need to go to County Council because ABCA would still be objecting to the lot creation. If council were to recommend deferral for an easement, ABCA, let's say they were to get on board, that may allow this to change to an undisputed process and it does not go on to Huron County Council.
Okay, to the representative, this easement idea, have you thought of that, and what does it mean to your, how you hear it?
Thank you. And so we wouldn't be supportive of the easement approach just because it would essentially be a permanent registration on title. So if the applicant were to sell the lot, to remove the easement, they would require consent of both owners. And so not only would you be selling the lot at a lower price because it's subject to this easement, you would then in the future have to get the consent of both owners to have the easement removed, which, as you can imagine, is often quite difficult if the 2 owners don't get along or if there's any issues with that. So it's just kind of a permanent cloud on title to the property, which is why the applicant's not supportive of the easement.
Okay, I need to have this easement thing explained to me a little more. I was working, I'll look to Sarah, the property doesn't get severed at all, if there's an easement on a portion, or does it still need to be severed?
So through your worship, it's a severance application, but applies like an easement on it, and it's a restriction on that portion of the property. It still is one whole parcel. It just has an easement on the south half. So the whole of the land still stays as one. What the applicant is requesting is to sever off the south as a separate conveyable parcel. So we're splitting the land into two. If we go the easement option, it retains the whole of the lands with restrictions over that south half.
That's what I thought. And there'd be the easement would say nothing can be built on that. So that from what I read here, the owner across the road who owns everything, I guess, the properties, wishes to be able to see the lake. I want to be clear about that, right? That's the whole reason we're here. Correct?
Worship,
Mr.
so
Brian?
that is in part the reason, but the second reason is for estate planning purposes. Like he wants to divvy up the lots between his family or have the option in the future to sell one or two of the lots if possible. And he can't do that without the severance application. So it's in part to protect the view from 104 Tile, which is why he doesn't intend on developing as long as he lives at 104 Tile. But the other aspect of it is for estate planning purposes, which have become quite urgent.
Go ahead, Counselor.
Thank you. And so I'm basically just going to speak out loud. Been listening wholeheartedly to everybody. So what I'm seeing is county planner gave us basically four options. With comment from Ms. O'Brien, I'm seeing the line drawn on a map is very, very important to the property owner, regardless as to what happens. That line wants to be or needs to be there. Hence why they're saying we don't agree with the easement portion of this. In my opinion, it's already R1, NE2, NE3. I say we'll leave the property the way it is. You throw an H on top of it and carry on. And that's where I'm saying. Sever it.
Go ahead, Counselor. Whetstone?
Yeah, I think I've got enough information unless somebody else wants that. I'm gonna make the recommendation that it's approval with a lot creation with an H hold on it.
The H, okay, and the H, we have that, what the H represents. We need to hear that. You've got that written down,
Yeah,
Sarah?
through your worship, I can share screen. I do have a motion which would kind of outline what that includes. So that would be approve of the holding that Council of the Municipality of Blue Water recommend to County Council to approve consent application file C73-2025 regarding 99 Tile Street, Bayfield, with a recommended condition that a holding zone be applied to the south portion proposed severed parcel of the subject lands to prevent future development, and with the following conditions. So this is a little hard to see here. I will try to zoom in. The one that would be applicable here for most interest then is the applicant submit a rezoning application to apply a holding zone on the south portion of proposed severed parcel of the subject lands to the satisfaction of the municipality. This holding shall address matters including services, allocation, buildable area, and satisfaction of the conservation authority. And then we do have here the deeds for lot creation cannot be registered until a holding zone has been added to the south portion of the subject lands through submission of a zoning bylaw amendment application to the satisfaction of the municipality. And this option does then have the removal of services being added into the ground because you have the holding zone.
The applicant has represented is clear on those concerns. I don't think you. Sorry, it doesn't help. I turned it off. I apologize. Ms. O'Brien, you heard the what would be entailed with regards to the H?
Yes, your worship. So those conditions seem good and we'd be supportive of that recommendation. My only question is for condition 7. I don't know if Ms. Smith, do you know the costs and what's required of submitting the rezoning application for the H? Because if it is substantial, we would be asking that that be revised to say the township submit a rezoning application to apply the H, and then you could preface it that the applicant would apply to have it removed. when, if required.
She's calculating right now.
I believe it's just about $4,100 to do a zoning application. Again, if the municipality wishes to bore that cost for the applicant, that is up to the municipality to make that decision. The county portion would likely still be taken in this case, so the municipality could cover the applicant's expense for the municipal portion of the application.
Okay, so it's $4,100 on the motion that's on the floor now, and is that correct?
Yeah, there you
And-
were. And I did locate here. I think I've got a different one sharing. Apologies.
Okay,
Through your application, so the zoning application in total is $4,160. The local municipal portion of that is $1,360, or sorry, $1,380. And the county portion is $2,780. So the municipality could decide to pay that $1,380 if they do wish so, but that is up to the municipal discretion.
and thank you for that explanation. That's a separate issue. But I do have with regards then, so down the road, everybody says they don't want to build on there, but they want to sever it. This is what I'm hearing, because maybe down the road, you know, great grandson or whatever, hey, I'd like to sell that. At that time, they then have to pay whatever the fee is to get the H off.
Through your worship, yes, it would be another zoning application at the time, and application fees do go up each year.
Okay, so say in 6 months, someone has a change of heart, it'd be around $4,100 they'd have to pay.
That's the, through your worship,
argument's
that's the
sake.
2026 fee.
And down the road is down the road. Okay, so that's where it's at, Sarah, where, Miss O'Brien. What's your thoughts?
Thank you, your worship. And I think we would be seeking for the township to, if they're willing to cover those costs on the application being submitted. And then I think we'd be okay with the applicant covering it on them resubmitting. One more question for Ms. Smith is, at what point would the additional reports be required? Would that be upon applying to have the H removed? I think that's what we would be requesting, just because if they're not developing the lot now, we don't see the need for the reports at this time.
Through your worship, those studies would be at the time of removal of the holding to demonstrate that the land is developable. Each of those check boxes in a way to remove the holding have to be met. Likely one of them would be that hydrogeological, servicing allocation, et cetera.
Okay, Counselor Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is a motion on the floor. The reason there was a lot of discussion here. I was in support of the motion that was presented. And if there's going to be any change to the motion that's on the floor due to funding, then I'm going to change my mind and I will be in for denial of the severance. So we need to either call the question and not have any more discussion and see where it goes, or
Yep.
give it up.
Okay, and I think I'm gonna look to the clerk to confirm we do have one motion. There's regards to this other is totally another issue, but I want the clerk to
Yeah.
clarify.
Through you, your worship, the motion that's on the floor is as Sarah had shared it previously. There's nothing about the costs included.
Okay. With regard, so on the motion, we all appreciate that any person would want to come and ask that I don't want to pay any more than I have to. What about the reinstatement? Have they already paid a fee, or has any fees been paid already?
Through your worship, they have paid the severance application fee.
And how much is that?
That is $4,680.
But so there you go. You want severance and this motion allows you to go forward and create what the wish is I hear from the owners, that they want to be able to guarantee for now, as much as they can, that they can see the lake. And then down the road, there's other options that can happen. But theirs is a cost, $4,100. If there is another motion come forward with regards to the municipality paying, I won't be supporting that, but we'll see what happens there. As pointed out, this motion is here on this floor. I don't see anybody asking to amend this motion. So let's call the question. All counselors ready? We have one on Zoom. I will respect that. You're okay ready to vote?
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much. Okay, the motion is, please read it again.
Sarah, I could just ask you to bring it back up on the screen. So that the Council of the Municipality of Blue Water recommend to County Council to approve consent application file C-73/2025 regarding 99 Tile Street, Bayfield, with a recommendation or with a recommended condition that a holding zone be added to the south portion, the proposed severed parcel of the subject lands to prevent future development with the following conditions. And then Sarah, I believe the conditions were standard and you highlighted point 7. Being that the applicant submit a rezoning application to apply a holding zone on the south portion, proposed severed parcel of the subject lands to the satisfaction of the municipality. This holding zone shall address matters including services, allocation, buildable area, and satisfaction of the Conservation Authority.
Okay, we've heard the motion. The question's been asked to be voted on. All those in favor of the motion, is this recorded or just straight up? All those in favor? Any? Go ahead, do your verbal, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I'm in support. Yep.
All right, the motion carries. None against at this time. That's where we're at. Is there any other motions? All right, regarding any final comments with this, Ms. Fish, Ms. O'Brien?
No, just thank you for your time, counselors.
Okay, thank you. So Sarah, what goes next then after we pass this here? You're gonna be talking to her to explain, but could you give council a Coles note?
Yes,
person?
yes, yeah. Through your worship, I will follow up with Grace O'Brien, but next steps would be going forward to County Council. So the recommendation here tonight will be carried forward to County Council. Our two mayor and deputy mayor that do sit on council could speak to the application and the summary and the discussion that happened tonight, and then county will make a decision, and that is final and binding, and there's a 20-day appeal period.
And it's important that they're entitled to come to that meeting also to express their concerns and ideas.
Yes, through your worship.
Or whatever.
Yeah, it's a public meeting similar tonight. They would be provided the opportunity to speak if they wish.
And you'll be getting that information when it comes to county. Okay, thank you, Sarah. Thank you. And we'll carry on to the next application, community improvement application, a CIP 02-2026-17 Square Bayfield. There's a recommendation here from planning. It's a public, two motions we need here. Councillor Whetstone for opening remarks or.
Yeah, so it's nice to see that people are taking advantage of what we have here, the application in here as well too. I know the property well. It would serve the property very well moving forward with this as well too, and therefore I'm going to move the recommendation. And it's 2, Chandra, is it not correct? 1 and 2 look like can be done together, and 3, no, or is it all one? It's an and an and.
So we are looking for 2 separate. So first would be passing the bylaw, and then second would be to approve the amendment to budget if council wanted.
Okay,
Yeah, so I'll make recommendation for items 1 and 2.
Counselor Sangster will second.
okay. Pretty straightforward, but is there any other issues or concerns? I'm going to call the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, but we do need number 3 to approve the budget amendment. Councillor Harris, Deputy Mayor, move that. Number 3. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Sarah. And good luck with that work. It's nice to see. 6.13, Bill 98. There's a report here from planning. do you wish to go through it or?
Uh, Through your worship, the report is there for information for council. If there are any questions, I can try to answer those. I do want to note that a similar report did go forward to county council at their April 22nd meeting. They did make recommendation to provide comments through the ERO posting. Similar recommendations were included in this report. If council does wish for staff to submit or provide comments through to the ERO posting, we can do that. Otherwise, you could decide to have the county comments just speak on behalf of your municipality, but there is that option there. So the recommendation is to receive the report and to direct and authorize staff to provide comments should you wish to do so.
Okay. Councilor Whitstone?
I do have a couple questions and maybe just clarifications. And I'm not sure if you can answer them tonight or not. I don't know. That's why. One comment is I do like in there, they stated how the use of secondary plans should be used more, which I'm a huge believer in that. And I think we should be doing that for Hensel, to be honest, should be our next one that we should be looking at. But anyways, that's just a comment. Moving forward on that, there was one that was, it was under minimum lot size for urban residential land. And it was the second paragraph there, yeah. So ongoing consultation process to set the minimum residential lot size at 175 square meters. A municipality would not be able to deny a lot creation application for a lot size, even if it does not conform to the minimum. And I was trying to understand it, and I could be honest, maybe I was tired. I don't know what it was, but I'm trying to think, how does this affect us? Does it affect us in Blue Water at all, or yes, no?
Yeah, so through your worship right now in our zoning bylaw, for example, an R1 low density residential zone has a minimum lot area of 450 square meters. If an application were to come in for 175 square meters, we could not deny that application. We may have to update our zoning bylaws to meet 175 as the minimum.
So does that mean a lot is that small?
Through your worship, yes, that is what the province direction is, that lots could be as small as 175 square meters.
So how, okay. So I'm trying, and maybe I should have did a little bit more homework. So how does this actually affect the secondary plan of what we put in place in Bayfield as to density, lot sizes, how we wanted to see things? You know, that's what the whole purpose of the secondary plan was to balance all that. And now this is being told that, well, no, you can pile people on top of people basically on one lot.
Yeah, through your worship, if this is a directive at the provincial level, we may have to update our official plans and may have to update our zoning bylaws that is the new minimum standard. And that may be, yes, a little different than what we've been seeing recently. It is perhaps provincial directive. Some of the other things that have come in recently about ARUs, if we are mandated to do it, it is a requirement we do have to follow.
Okay, right now, it's been pointed out, this has been sent in at the county level. There's a motion here to receive this for information. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I apologize.
Site plan control was the next one. And I know we put this in the Bayfield secondary plan as well. So how will the site plan control, does it differ from what's in our secondary plan now for Bayfield as well too? Or is there much impact there?
Through your worship, we're reviewing that one as well. If necessary amendments will be changed, we'll have to bring those back. It would require official plan amendments or zoning bylaw amendments accordingly. As things are rolling out in these bills, we will be bringing information back to council with related directives or amendments that we are mandated to make or may have suggested modifications. Some might be mandated and some might be suggestions that council then can have further discussion on. But we will try to bring those forward as these bills are rolled out at this point and it's open for comment. I don't know if Aaron does have anything additional just because building department leads on the site plan control aspect, but we're trying to monitor and bring forward as information as we can to councils as quick as we can get it.
Okay, that was my last question. Thank you.
Okay. Great. What do we want to do here? Council receive for information this evening? Okay, Councilor Harris received for information. Seconder. Councilor Lamport. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. And when you say receive for information, there's comments. You can lobby, talk to your MPPs rather at any time. All right. Blue Water Official Plan, 5-year review. We're,
I have a brief summary presentation on this one, just because it's quite a nice project to wrap up here. So if you will humor me for a couple minutes more here. Okay, there we go. Apologies. Awesome, and thank you through your worship. Here about the official plan review and the presentation of the formal bylaw for adoption. We have gone through the full review process of this, the kickoff meeting, the preparation of the planning or background reports, presenting the draft plan. We have had 3 versions of the plan and the final 4th adoption one before council tonight. We did do public outreach. We had open houses that were quite successful and public meetings as well. So tonight I am before you with a request for local adoption of the 5-year review to our official plan. Just to outline a couple minor changes that were done between the 3rd draft that was last received and the 4th draft. We did remove reference to the county biologist, as that is no longer a position at the county level. And we did also change the age of the severed dwelling. So right now, under the provincial planning statement, they did do a change to 10 years, and that has been carried on into the county official plan. So it's also recommended that we conform with that through the local official plan. So right now, if someone wants to sever a dwelling, they have to demonstrate the house is 15 years in age. The change provincially and county is that now they must only demonstrate it as a minimum of 10 years in age. So we recommend that that also be changed in our local official plan so that we are in conformity with the county official plan. And there were a couple mapping refinements that had come up just in resident had identified a couple things on their property, and we just noticed a couple other parcels. We just did some minor mapping refinements in the Lakeshore area to ensure that zoning underneath the official plan does not have any conflicts with the official plan designation layers. So those changes are in the mapping that is in the amendment tonight for council. There is one still outstanding public comment on the south half of concession 10, parcel 21, Zurich Hensel Road. There was an original objection that was submitted on this one. They wanted to designate the lands residential. This is part of the area that's in the special policy area. Information has been provided to the owner, and staff have offered some options to discuss, but haven't had any further success on that. It is hopeful that the special policy area, which was implemented, that does allow the range between commercial, residential, and industrial, is hopefully to intend and meet those and address those concerns, because residential would be permitted and the existing use on the property does have a right to continue. We did receive, since the April 7th council meeting, 2 comments and responses to letters that were sent out. So the one being 75824 Par Line. This is just in Varna. There's that parcel that is the lower half of it is technically within the settlement area of Varna. We had proposed that that in its entirety be outside of the settlement area and designated agriculture. I had sent a letter to the owner, which at the time of April 7th, we hadn't received a response for it, but since April 7th, they did give a call in. I was able to outline the reasoning behind that removal, and they are satisfied with that, knowing that the entirety of the parcel will be designated agriculture and that there's no change to the existing uses on their subject land. So they have no objection to that proposed change. And then the owner of 38172 Zurich Hensel Road, this is also one of the properties within the lands proposed under that special policy area in Zurich. They did reply back and outlining to them what that special policy area provision allows with the additional provision for residential, commercial, or industrial, and they were satisfied with that, so they had no concerns. There were noted, and again tonight, the summary report for Bill 98. It does speak to changes to complete application requirements. In our drafts up till now, we have had proposed changes to section 9.23, but we're recommending that the plan be passed with the current complete application requirements that are in the Blue Water Official Plan as it sits today. We will have to update those if more information comes out or a standard list from the province, but it's the recommendation to move the entirety of the plan forward, just using our existing draft, our complete application requirements until we get additional information from the province on Bill 98.
okay, councillors, any
So this is
questions at this?
recommended it be approved at the end of the day. Sorry. Thank you.
No, we'll get to that too.
Yeah.
Councillor Harris? Okay. I just, you talk about, you mentioned that last part about, well, there may be some changes that have to come. So how we're asking this motion. And then earlier, there was some changes made already. You mentioned here in the plan, it always said, Huron County biologist. And now, that hasn't happened. That's been very, obviously, last month, I guess. So we've stroked that out. On page 90, part of 90, Bill 98, no, it's on the top page, and it starts off local official plans. And then near the bottom, it says Ontario Professional Planners Institute. And if people can look at that, it's on the top of the first page when you flip it over. And it talks about that the government is, with discussions with professionals, they want words changed. For example, from industrial to employment areas, major facilities, and from residential to neighborhoods. And it says that, and what further says is under this Bill 98, we need to have that standardized in our plans. And it's been mentioned by the planning department that that's going to create a lot of work. We're doing our plan right now. You mentioned about Bill 98. We were able to stroke out the word and just has to have somebody here in county or that biologist stroked out. Why would we not put these words in? Or is that till we wait till the bill passes?
Through your worship, at this point, Bill 98 is still in draft. It's open for comments. We don't know what that will be. The hope is that the province will come out with a standardized list. If they do at that time, if it's 2 months from now, if it's a year from now, we can open up our official plan again and modify that 9.23 provisions to be the standard list by the province. So it's recommended that the plan be approved as it is right now, the drafts that we have done, and we will bring back an amendment if we are required to based on Bill 98.
And at that time, so do we know when Bill 98 and we don't know when it's passed. I get that. They're politicians. But are they talking, is the plan that it's going to be in the next 2 months that they're going to be rolling things? Have they given any indication?
Through your worship, I don't know an exact date. I don't, if Aaron, he has any comments. I know comments are due by May 14th. It may come in the next week after that. It may be a couple months after that. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, just keep in mind that second line there about costing. So we'll have to keep an eye on that because we certainly name changes. I think I'm hoping we're arguing to the government that that they don't have to be changed by January 2029. There's many names that when you do the 5-year review, you update. So I'm hoping that common sense is coming in because we want to get on with this. It's good that you're going to take at least a couple of weeks to see what happens, but to print this and then to spend hours of time changing them all before their 5-year reviews. It didn't have to happen before and it shouldn't have to happen. So I hope they're hearing that message. Okay, council, where do you want to go?
Sorry, I know we kind of flipped a little bit there for a second, just Bill 98 again. So May 14th is when the process ends, right?
Through your worship, that's when the comment deadline ends.
The comment deadline ends. So is this gone to the county yet for review? Like it's May.
I mean, our plan?
No, Bill 98.
You guys gotta see it this way.
But we at county about a month ago.
You had
passed,
it already?
Yes.
and
Okay.
and-
Yeah.
That's
Through your worship, yeah.
The timing's not.
Yes.
Yeah, we did that a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or
Fair enough.
2 months.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, any particular questions? I tried to read through it all. Sarah, we had some discussion. I appreciate the time. I think it's important to make sure that I liked some of the wording that clarified for people that can read it that are working and also for planners. And it's always a work in progress, counselors. There's always unique things. It keeps us all busy. But are we prepared to pass this motion that she's recommending tonight to move this forward? Councillor Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would move the recommendation that it become a bylaw.
Okay. Second by Councillor Lamport. Any further discussion? Sarah's clear with our motion. She's obviously checked with the clerk. We're all clear on the process.
Yeah, through your worship. So just kind of next steps, this will go forward then to county council. They do have final adoption on a local level official plan.
Okay. If there's no further comments, I'm going to call this motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Sarah. Counselor Whitstone.
I was gonna wait till the end, but being, I think that's your last. I wonder if I could beg forgiveness here. Yeah, and no, instead of asking her to stay, maybe we could just have a quick chat on this. So, and it's back to the Bill 98 where we just sort of moved it for information. I think we should be putting in the impact. Now we can do it one of two ways. We can either get a delegation as to the impact on the secondary plan that we spent almost 2.5 years on developing as to the impact on that, or we write something up as part of our correspondence to give back to them.
On the secondary plan, the issue I think isn't, they like secondary plans.
No, all those other things that I mentioned that are in the secondary plan, there's two other items, the lot sizes. The other one was the design control. Those type of things they were in there that we spent a ton of time on.
Oh, okay. All right. On those two, when we
Like
go
green
back,
space. Now all of a sudden we said we're gonna have this amount of size of lots. Now we have no green space. They just want cement between cement between cement.
so we want to, so to go back, when we're down in Toronto, we'd like to have a delegation on those three specific issues.
Yes,
Secondary?
or any of the negative impacts to the secondary
Well,
plan. I think, but
keep in mind, you get your 10 minutes with the,
yeah, those are probably the
Minister?
two significant ones, I would think, Sarah, based on your knowledge of the secondary plan. I know it was developed when you were off. I think some of it as well too, so.
Yeah, through your worship, there's a couple like Bayfield specific ones.
Right,
Yeah, the
exactly.
secondary plan specific
Yeah.
ones, which may have more impact. We
Yeah.
will probably also feel this across Zurich and Hensel.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's definitely one. We're doing some kind of math in the background. What does this mean in our zoning bylaws?
so are you doing that at the county level anyways, and gonna provide that impact as to what it will be to, like, say, Zurich, Hensel, Bayfield?
It may not get specific to each local town. If you want to do something specific to Bayfield, you may be best if you're doing a delegation to have kind of Bayfield specific or Blue Water specific comments.
Right.
We're doing very general on them, kind of what's outlined here in the report.
Okay, so I think a delegation would be in order then, based
Okay.
on some of those items, so.
all right.
Yeah.
We can, that's a friendly, we're discussing planning
Yeah,
and
sorry.
delegation. It's a living.
It was just a
Document
development
that-
that came
that one
after the
is.
fact, so.
So you're making a motion that we get a report and
Sorry.
go ahead. Can you-
Sorry, that council direct staff to submit a delegation to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs regarding the negative impact of Bill 98 to the Bayfield secondary plan.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and in all honesty, rural versus urban, to be honest. So,
Well, there's a lot of effects. But there's specific things there, and as pointed out, won't be long. Is there a seconder for your motion? Counselor Walden? Everybody's clear? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Sarah, for that extra input. Development Services, appointment of Nathan Latta as Deputy Chief Building Official. Is there anyone wishing to make that motion as a bylaw? Any discussion? Counselor Lamport, Deputy Mayor. We had a lot of good discussion on it. Okay, all those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, and Aaron, pass on our congratulations and look forward to the working together as always. All right. The Heritage Committee bylaw here, who wants to move, and then any discussion? Counselor Whitstone, Counselor Walden. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Public Works Speed Limit Bylaw Amendment. Our Mr. Kester is on Zoom, I believe.
Your worship.
Thank you. You have a recommendation here. Everybody's read the report, but is anyone wish to move this in discussion? Counselor Harris,
Oh,
Moves?
just move with comment, yes, sir.
go ahead. Seconded. Need a seconder. Counselor Walden. Now go ahead on the bylaw and any comments.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate the work on this. Now, when you say you're gonna limit the amount of signs, and select entrances and exits, for the different villages, I noticed that South Huron basically just put a sign stating that, 40-kilometer speed limit, on all roads unless otherwise posted. Is that something similar to what we're gonna have?
Through you, your worship. Yeah, that's correct. That's something similar. And we're going to work with the county on that to be able to post those signs, because as is the case for both Zurich and Hensel, we're going to have to do a little bit different work there, but just because it is an MTO road that goes through there. But where we have the opportunity, we are going to try and post those signs coming into those locations, basically stating as such.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's, I know when you, came to council about this report, you had to be, the concern of all of us is how many signs are we having? And you were right to say, well, we can't just maybe put signs up. We got to work with the county, but clearly, no surprise. South Huron did, take the lead on this, and on the county road, they have a sign stating when you're in town, when you go into the proper municipality of Exeter, it's 40. Or, well, South Huron, all their properties, but their villages, etc. So I think, yeah, let's try to keep working on that. And on the main street of Hensel and Zurich, does it have to stay 50?
Through you, your worship, it would be to the county's election if they felt the need to change that. But it is under their bylaw.
Yep.
that speed limit is governed.
Thank you for that clarification. But again, there's a sign at the edge of town which will state everything in this village will be 40 unless posted different on the county road. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Dave, just one quick question on that the mayor was talking about, and maybe I'm out to lunch, but isn't there a certain amount of speed reduction in space that's required so that if it goes from 90 to 70, it can't go to 40?
Through your worship. So to actually acknowledge the requirements within Book 5 and Book 6 of the Ontario Traffic Manual, it basically, it doesn't state it explicitly, but to actually acknowledge the time between signs, there has to be a staggered step down between. So to achieve a step down between 40 and 70 may be possible. I'd have to go and relook at the traffic manual itself specifically, but to go from a step down between say 90 and 50, there's a step down, and so typically it's you're looking at half, so that's where the 70 is. Again, I don't know exactly what the numbers are on there, but to perfectly align with the Ontario Traffic Manual, there needs to be that staggered step down.
And I don't want to overburden it again, but I guess I will. When that sign that I'm reading outside of in South Huron on the county road, it says the Exeter roads are 40K. Clearly, you're going to have you use the same processes on Huron Street because it's been extended down to 40 for a while now. But they must have, as you say, a step down coming off that road, and we'll have one. The one I can only think of is in Zurich will be Goshen North, because the county already does their thing. And anyway, the key thing is we don't want to have a lot of signs in every corner saying it's 40. That's the bottom line. And you get that.
We're going to align with the Ontario Traffic Manual, and the efforts will be applied to have as few signs possible installed, but still be able to achieve the goal that we're looking to achieve.
And that's wonderful. Okay, we did ask for this, council. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Crosswalk investigation. It's been that we received the report for information. personally, I think that's fine, but I think we need to give some direction too. Cause when I see receive, it just means we're receiving it, no direction. So keep that in mind as we move along here, council.
This, Dave, is for you yourself. This obviously came in more than what we were anticipating. I think maybe about half of that was the original thought process when we first brought this up. But did we ever find out when this has to be decided as to, okay, we have to decide when we're going, what we're doing, because there's a timeline that the person that this would be awarded to can do it in?
Through you, your worship. So there's an approximately about a 3-week lead time from when the when given authorization to proceed is what there is what has been indicated.
Councillor Harris?
As Councillor Weston was saying, yeah, it was a little shocking on how much it was gonna cost. And the first thing that crossed my mind is it's $5,000 to put it back after the 150. Is it possible just to let it wear off, and replace it once it's absolutely gone? Right, like, instead of, okay, 150 is over, tear it up and redo it, just let it wear off naturally, and then once it's decrepit and need to replace it, then we look at it then. I don't know.
Yeah, no, good question. Go ahead.
Yeah, so through you, your worship, there's no requirement to have it taken off. I included the price to have it removed, just an acknowledgement that it's going to degrade in time and it will start to look poor, but there's no requirement to have it actually removed in accordance with any of the Ontario traffic manuals.
So the integrity of the sidewalk isn't the issue, or a health and safety thing because someone, I don't know, it might slip on it in the winter because of the paint or whatever the material is.
So the possibility does exist of somebody slipping and falling on it, absolutely. The obligation for the crosswalk itself is basically that the crosswalk paint be established and be there and be recognizable and seen. As far as the logos and the decorations or anything of that nature that's there, it doesn't speak to that. It doesn't say whether it can be in poor state or anything like that. So I would interpret it to basically say that there's no action needed to actually physically have it removed.
Councillor Sangster?
Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, I was under the impression it was going to be left to wear until possibly the next event, like their 175th or something like that. I'm not sure how long this paint lasts. And then other question, these lines have to be black.
Go ahead. You have other questions? Oh, sorry, go ahead on the last, how long it lasts.
Yeah, so through you, your worship. So to the two questions, typically, the paint lasts between 2 and 4 years, maybe 5 years, kind of thing, depending on how much traffic it receives. In terms of the color, they actually have to be white. The only reason why in the image, and I apologize, you should have made note of it on the council report. The reason that it's identified as black is to show contrast to the paper itself. It actually has to be white. The perpendicular to the road lines have to be white. The lines in between can be whatever council chooses. Actually, I would suggest white is most common and most appropriate. However, it is not the case that it's black. Again, black is just shown in term to show the contrast against the paper itself.
Okay, thank you. Just from a design perspective, I would do something in the logo, not black or whatever other color, like yellow or orange.
Okay, Councillor Whetstone has his hand up.
Yeah, just on that, and actually that was one of my questions, was if there's a change in color, is it any difference in cost? I did a little chat GPT with the image and pulled out, as Councillor Sangster said, the blue that's in there or the heritage orange that's in there. and wondered if there'd be any additional cost for that. There's multiple colors already that they have to use. I just wondered if there'd be any difference on the labor.
Through you, your worship, I don't know the exact answer to that, whether it would be any cost difference between going from like a blue to a white. White being the most typical and common color, but Councillor Whetstone, to your comment, they are colors that are already being used within the logo themselves, so they may have enough. And I don't suspect that it's going to be I wouldn't suspect it would be a significant cost if there was any at all.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so now granted, we would have to spend the $4,780 at some point in time, unless we just let it wear right off and then repaint. So if it's totally gone, maybe that cost wouldn't be, so reinstatement would still be there regardless of if we put our regular sidewalk, crosswalk back or whatever we put in there. So that's something we'd have to put into a future budget. So I guess Maggie, this is for you, Maggie McBride. So if we look at the two options, let's say we're down, and I'm not suggesting which one we're going to go with yet. I got an idea on that, but if we're taking the 4,700 off of each of those, where would we find the funding to cover the cost of this if we were to wanting to move forward with this?
Yeah. So through you, your worship, typically we see projects like this funded through like our vibrancy funds. But since we didn't have this information for the budget, it wasn't included. I did kind of have a quick look through like our reserve policy. I know Dave Kester's noted that there's a couple projects where we've got the tender in and there's some savings there. I wouldn't recommend that we take funding from any of our capital replacement reserves. This just doesn't seem like a fit. With that, since it's not a tangible capital asset that we're replacing or where we're improving. Ultimately, really what I could come up with was the working funds reserve, that might be an option for council to consider. I had to look through our reserve policy on the wording. It's intended to be used for variations in cyclical spending, unexpected or unanticipated operating opportunities and pressures. So that could be a consideration for council. So that would ultimately be directing staff to fund the cost through the working funds reserve.
Sir.
Okay, I'm gonna say, yeah, the vibrancy would have been the best, but as you said, we're not there. And I mean, I have to be somewhat fiscal responsible at the same time when we're doing any project, because as you know, we've got a lot of concerns coming in the future years where we're going. It is something that it is a 150. It's something that should be celebrated. I'm actually going to put a motion forward that we defer this until 1 month from now. And I've already had a discussion with the person who leads the multi-service club meetings. And we may send this out and see if we can't do a partial fundraising, because it is a community project. And this would be great to celebrate the community. It's something that is going to be there permanently versus having a dance or having something else. This actually signifies that. And let's see what we can come up with, and then let's see what council's willing to look at doing in a month from now. 3 weeks lead time is great. We can be doing that at any time now. We want to get moving on this, but I think that's where we could look at, knowing that with the crosswalk reinstatement, we could take that out of there. We might be able to get this down to a much more manageable level from a municipality standpoint. So my motion is to defer for 1 month's time. And it would be on June the 1st. I'd like to see it brought back.
I'll second.
And in that motion is that direction about going out to the public for seeing about if there's how much interest in fundraising? Should that be in the motion?
No, it doesn't. Well, we can say that we'll see if the public is interested in funding. We won't go out. That's already been taken care of. There will be taken care of after this meeting. So
I just want
no, for sure. But based on see if there's public interest, I guess, if you can word something, Chandra, to that effect, that'd be great.
While she's doing that, was there a seconder? I think we got that clear enough. We did have a seconder. What? No, sorry, Winona.
Yeah, that's all right.
Out of mind. That's good. You're all right. On the motion, councillors? I think that's.
You just hear one more.
Well, I think we had the jest, but anyway.
So the council defer until the June 1st meeting to allow opportunity to seek community interest in fundraising for the crosswalk.
Okay, on the motion? Counselor Lamport? Oh, okay, well, I think that, I think, okay, I think that's a good thing to do. We're all good points about it's an anniversary, but to keep in mind, we have a lot of anniversaries and our fiscal responsibility. I think we need to get that. That's a good motion to see what people are thinking. Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Dave, for that work. Finance, Maggie McBride. There's a recommendation of bylaw here. Counselor Lamport making the motion, discussion.
I'll move it.
Second by Counselor Groot. Any comments? Very good report on the bylaw. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Fire Department, two separate motions. Tender award. Pumper tanker. Counselor Walden, Counselor Lamport moved seconded to move the first. Any questions to staff? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. And number two, Counselor Harris.
I will move with just a question.
Sure, we need a seconder then so we can have a discussion. Counselor Groot, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my question basically, Dave, is you got some extra money because the truck came in lower than tender and you want to spend it on a hose, and that is the hose for this truck to complete this purchase. If it did not come under, what would the truck be driving around without a hose?
Through you, your worship, that's replacing our aging fleet of hoses that we do have. It would be bringing the truck online with a complete set of brand new hoses.
Okay, thank you.
So in other words, if it would have not come in budget, it would have got hoses, the old hoses, but each year in the budget, do we not have a bit of contingency for hose replacement?
So through you, your worship, all of the hoses in Blue Water are tested annually for pressure, and as they fail, we do replace them through our operating.
No, good for the public to hear. Good question all the way around. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Ready for the question? All those in favor? Motion carries. We are now at facilities, municipal garden planting policy. Bylaw. Here, is there mover seconder for this discussion? Counselor Lamport, Deputy Mayor. Any discussion, Counselor?
Apologize. I just got one clarification I didn't understand on this. So it says here the policy applies only to flower beds owned and maintained by the municipality. Then the policy also clarifies it does not apply to private property or volunteer maintained flower beds. What if it's a municipal owned flower bed that is being volunteer maintained?
Thank you, through you, your worship. Yeah, there's not many examples of the volunteer maintained flower beds at this point. When we do have groups that want to take the initiative to maintain garden beds, we like to give them the ability to kind of select what they want to put in, especially, there's some groups that want to do special plantings for Bayfield 150, for example. In most cases, we would try to make sure that they were native non-invasive species. But, if a group had a request for a plant that may not fit that criteria, we would consider it.
Thank you for that clarification. It's been moved and seconded. Any further comments? I'm going to call the motion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Maggie, for your staff and work on that. We're going now to road user agreement with Clayburgh Glen Club. All right, seconded by Counselor Lamport. Any discussion? Clarification? All okay then? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. And municipal significant event designation requests.
I'll move the recommendation.
Okay. Seconded by Counselor Harris. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion and opposed, motion carries. Counselor's announcements tonight. When I was going up the road today, I must confess, I was reading a sign that said today recognizes firefighters, International Fighter Day. And, so that was very nice to see going up the 401 and in a number of spots on MTO signs. So, that's a good thing. We do, appreciate our volunteers and our full-time firefighters. All right, that's my little announcement, but anything else? Seeing none, okay. There was no new business when we had our consent agenda approval. So we're now at confirmatory bylaw 44-2026. Need a mover. Counselor Harris, Counselor Sangster, seconds.
Yes.
Thank you. All those in favor? Any motion carries. I need a motion to adjourn. Counselor Walden and Counselor Lamport. All in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, council. Thank you, those that